So,
Good.
are you going to ask me if I'm excited to be here?
Yeah, you want me to do that, right?
Yeah, please.
Hi, and welcome to Manufacturing Matters, the podcast where we talk about matters in manufacturing. And today we've got Finn back for another chat. Very exciting. We're going to talk about intelligence and then how it can be applied in the manufacturing space. If you don't remember, so Finn's co-founder of Emendo Consulting, co-founder of Factbird, ex-Novo Nordisk, really smart guy. Are you excited to be back?
Thank you for asking. That's what we had agreed, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm super excited to be back. I love this little show, and I enjoy all the things you do. I watch it all the time.
Oh,
and I'm so excited that I actually missed the morning yoga class in my company.
Yeah.
Because I think sensing your body, sensing the world is super important, and I'm very much inspired by when we design things. I'm very much inspired by the way we humans operate.
Yeah.
And when we design technology, I think about how does it work? How does a human do things? How are we able to do all these crazy things as humans, and how can we make these stupid machines a little bit better? That's actually what I want to talk about.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic that it came up. I think I pitched you some idea, and you're like, "How about this one?" It's a lot better than what I was thinking of talking about. So it's a really good segue from yoga, where it's all about like centering yourself and sensing your body, as you say, to
detect the function. when you it's. I think we're using maybe 70% of our brain capacity in sensing if things are normal or not. You said maybe I lost weight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
And so you thought about that all summer, right? Anyway, so we are using a lot of energy to sense if things are normal or not, and then based on that we take some actions. And I think it's the same in a company. I also run a company or several companies, and I'm using a tremendous amount of time sensing if things are normal in the company, if the products are okay, if the team is okay, and as the world is becoming more and more complex, and we have to sense, what with the bank, or did I pay my taxes, and all kind of things. We lose the overview, and but why don't in real life? But why don't we lose the overview in as humans? We can remember so many things, like you could remember if I lost weight.
Yeah.
And so I think we can apply some of the things that we do as humans to the factories as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something you hear a lot. So we just did a Six Sigma Yellow Belt course at Factbird, right? And one of the things that the instructor kept bringing up was that when you meet somebody in a bar for the first time, they come up and talk to you. What's the first thing you do? You assess if they're normal. So that's all about your data and is it a normal distribution and all that. But it's something you do mostly without thinking, as you said. So when you open the door on the 6th floor here today, I was like, Finn's looking very a bit fitter than usual, and wearing a suit. So maybe he's got a meeting later.
I have with a key customer.
Yeah, exactly.
Today,
yeah. So that's what I was sensing, and it's as you said, it's quite amazing how that's such a big part of what we do. You showed me this really good framework about how you see human intelligence there as well. So the first part being sensing.
Yeah, I think. Human intelligence is 70% sensing things.
Yeah.
So all kind of things to survive. Yeah. It's super important that we sense if there's a tiger around or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then based on the sensing, we take actions. Yeah. We can first action is no action, right? If we don't need to change anything, we don't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. But if we sense that something is wrong, we need to we take corrective actions. We change something. If something is wrong in the letter from the bank, we call the bank and tell them, hey, there's something wrong, right? We do corrective actions, and some of the corrective actions we turn into what I call sustaining actions, which is like brushing your teeth, remembering to exercise, eat, communicating in the companies, things that we know that if we don't do this on a regular basis, then things will go wrong.
Habitual things.
Yeah.
Which change throughout your life.
Which change, yeah. And then also as a human, I think we explore, we take actions to explore. It can be relations or a new way to drive home, or we read a book. Knowledge, curiosity, and there is a theory that actually we get a little dopamine fix when we explore things.
Yeah.
And that's why we have evolved fast, because the ones that were exploring, they would actually do better than the other ones.
Yeah, we're programmed to be curious. It's part of our nature. Yeah.
So, so for me, intelligence is the ability to be super good at sensing.
Yeah.
If super intelligent people, social intelligence is also to understand, be super good at sensing and then taking the right actions.
Yeah.
And if you think of various diseases that humans can have, so like if you can oversense things, right, and you can overreact, or maybe you sense everything, but because you're burned out, you don't react, right? So human intelligence is sensing and reacting, or not reacting, because that's also a way to react. That is human intelligence, and I think the smart people, they're very good at it.
Yeah.
Hey, and it's the same with companies.
Yeah.
I really think that the smart companies, they have the same, and so that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So just to that was a lot of very good information that you just fired at us. But yeah, just to break it down again. So the main thing that we do is sensing. That's probably the most important part of it.
Yeah.
Then there's probably a process happening about what to do with that information that we sense. Yeah. And then we decide, and I think you said 4 different potential actions, just to keep it simple.
That's my theory.
Yeah, like no action,
change, corrective action, sustaining action, and exploratory action.
Yeah. And that fits in with so many other things that we like, other frameworks in that we've talked about, like in the business world or whatever, PDCA.
That's all about action. Plan, do, check, act.
Yeah, exactly. So so we know where this discussion is going now. This is how people operate. This is how we've operated for millennia.
Yeah.
How can we make businesses more intelligent?
And we can turn it around. If you want to, if you have a shitty company is sensing nothing and taking, of course, then taking no actions, or taking actions without sensing, right?
Exactly.
It's when you boil it down to things like that, then it's sometimes I go crazy when I see that companies collect a lot of data and they don't use it.
Yeah.
It's like you can see the world is falling apart if it was a human and you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's probably what the kids will say about the climate, right?
Yeah, every generation.
It's got something. Yeah. So we have all the data to show that the Earth is melting, but we're not doing anything about it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to open the eyes and understand the success we have had as humans. How can we turn that into this success in a company?
Yeah. So how do manufacturers do that then? So start with the sensing.
I think start with the sensing. I don't push this button because I start with the sensing. So first of all, what do you need to sense?
Yeah, exactly.
Have a good discussion about that in your management team. What do we actually need to sense?
Yeah.
And how often do we need to sense it? And what are we going to do with that information?
Yeah.
Because I think if you when the more we work with digitalization, the more things we're able to sense. And so companies that are able to sense, instead of having a review every 3 months, they have a review every day. Yeah. They will outcompete the other companies.
Yeah.
And so when Angela Merkel said, "Be ready with digitalization in 2025, or be history in 2035," I really believe that that is correct.
Yeah, she said that in 2017.
Yeah, she said that in 2017, because those companies that are able to, just like a human, just imagine a superhuman that is able to sense a lot more, like a RoboCop or whatever. A superhuman that's able to sense a whole lot more than normal humans. They will have a benefit over, and it's the same with the companies.
Yeah. They got more data to make better decisions.
Yeah. I hope you guys out there don't think we are crazy, but I think it's dangerous not to think about these things because technology is moving so fast, and we're already experimenting with these things for some of our clients, and the outcome is amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Because when you're able to sense, it's not only manufacturing data; it's data about. Let's say span of control, it's the quality data, it's material data, it's all kind of data. It's a wide pool of data that we're sensing, and we do a review every day.
Yep.
And of course, a company doing that will detect problems earlier, and they can take corrections, and they can turn it into sustaining actions and so on.
And if you want to sort of start that journey, like what are the first questions to ask? Is it like would you start with what do I want to be able to do, and then what do I need to sense to get there? Or?
It's not rocket science. I think we talked about it before. We can start by asking ourselves: was it a good day yesterday?
Yeah.
Right. Was it a good day or was it not a good day? And then we have to say, what is a good day?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I think what we would like to do, and this is also where we would like to take Factbird in the future, is to not only to say, was it a good day for the machine?
Yeah.
But was it also a good day for the humans?
Yeah.
In working in the factory?
Yeah.
Because you have a lot. The manufacturing is one process, but you have a quality process, you have a planning process, you have a maintenance process, you have a lot of processes in a factory. So when you ask yourself, was it a good day yesterday? We shouldn't just talk about the machine. We should also talk about the staff. They're all leaving.
Yeah, there's a brain drain. There's whatever. Yeah.
So it's just like a human. What was it a good day yesterday, Finn? Well, I did get some exercise and I had quite a good time at work. And maybe a glass of wine too much yesterday. So it was maybe not the perfect day.
Yeah.
But at least I reflect on it.
Yeah.
So in a management team, you should start by asking yourself, was it a good day yesterday? And then have a holistic approach and not only the output on the machine. I mean, with these things up here, you can automate, was it a good day for the machine or not? That's already available.
Easy peasy. Yeah.
Easy peasy. But you have a lot more data in your business than this. And again, just start.
Yeah.
Isn't it just performance management? Well, it's more than that because it's also detecting if things are normal or not.
Yeah.
Performance management is a little bit driving something. It's a corrective action, but it's also detecting if things are normal or not is also performance management in my mind because you discover problems early.
Yep.
And with AI, I believe we can also be able to look into the future. Machines can process hundreds of parameters, and they can do it every day, and they can also remember what these parameters were and the pattern. And with AI, we will be able to in the future to predict maybe 1-2 days into the future.
Yeah.
It will not be 100% correct, but most likely we could predict maybe 80% correct.
That's a good segue into my next question. Yeah. So we've talked about sensing the data, and then it's like, what do you do with it? So humans, we use our experience and knowledge to make decisions. That's the intelligence part of it.
Yeah.
And then how do you bring that into manufacturing? So there are very experienced workers, and they can operate on hunches, or they have a feeling about things. We know that that's not a scalable, sustainable.
They don't work on hunches. They know if you have a really experienced employee, they know if things are normal or not.
Yeah, because they're using the data. Because
they use their heads. They have just their own data collection system, and that's their brain.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah. But how do we scale that?
let me first tell you one more reason why it's important.
Gotcha. Yep.
Because we also lack people, at least in Europe and in the US. We really lack experienced people, and the frequency with which people are changing jobs is increasing.
Yeah.
So people change jobs more often, and when they leave, they take experience with them.
Yes.
So they take the normal, not normal detection with them to another company. So in my mind, we need to digitize. We need to have systems where we are building the sensing into the computer systems in order to detect what is normal and not normal. So when Joe is leaving, his ability to detect if, let's say, if there's too much stock standing on the floor, we need to digitize that sensing, and we need to set up control charts.
Yes.
And these control charts will then tell us, Joe will help us say, it should be like this.
So the control chart's like an upper and lower limit.
Up and a lower limit, and Joe will help us say, on a good day, on a perfect day, we are within at this stage, right?
Yeah.
We're at this level of stock on the floor, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then you reduce the variation and you reset the controls. Well, right, and optimize
even just start by detecting if things are not okay.
Yeah.
And then you can start reducing the variation and so on.
Yeah.
And how's that related to a human? Like I'm sure you didn't think about your foot while we've been sitting here.
No. Well, no, I am.
Now you are, yeah. Because as a human, we are sensing all things. So when you put your shoes on, then you feel. Do they feel normal?
Yeah.
And then if there's not a stone in there, you say, okay, they feel normal. And then in here, you have made a little control chart, biological control chart, saying if my foot is feeling like this, then I don't want to hear from the rest of today, because I need to do this podcast with Finn.
Yeah.
But if there's a nail in there, as soon as something is
outside of the
boundaries, your attention comes back to your foot.
Yeah.
All these parameters you also have in the company, and as we are automating and digitizing, we have so many parameters that humans cannot comprehend and cannot understand all these or process all these things at the same time, and especially also if we are changing jobs all the time. How the hell should we know? How will you quickly learn what is normal and what is not normal if the factory is automated and there's very few humans there? So my point is, we need to have some digital systems. We need to start digitizing the parameters, holistic parameters in the businesses, in order to automate the normal, not normal. Yeah. And to capture the experience of what is normal inside systems, rather than rely on people staying in their jobs for a long time, because they won't. That's a pretty far out discussion, but if any nerds out there, you will probably appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's total common sense, right? Yeah. We got to be good at sensing the world around us, or the factory or whatever, and then we've got to be good at making decisions.
Yeah.
And we want that to be sustainable, so it's not reliant on Joe.
We have one of the Factbird customers is Novo Nordisk, and in one of their packaging lines in Kalundborg, they are of course detecting how much is being produced, they're detecting the stop causes and so on. But when you work in the pharmaceutical industry in packaging, you also, because you have the leaflets, the little piece of paper that's inside the medicine box, right?
Instructions.
And it's really folded like hell. And if you want to have a good process, you need humidity 50% in the packaging area. And so they also have a humidity sensor.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you maybe go to, let's say, humidity of 30 or down to 20, you have static electricity. You get all kind of issues. If you go above, then they stick together the papers. And so if you work in the pharmaceutical industry in packaging, you know that. but now they've automated it. So they managed to put that. They have that. The Factbird is measuring the humidity and in the packaging area, and it alerts them and says, "Hey, there's something wrong. Oh, that's why the machine is running bad, right?"
Yeah.
But you can imagine, what if we could sense the experience of the team?
Yeah.
And you say, "Oh my God, we have 7 new ones here today."
Yeah.
Alert, right? We need the supervisor to come out of the meeting room. Yeah, I know you've been sitting there all day, but please come out.
Yeah.
Because we have
I think that ties into this like poka-yoke concept as well, right? Like automating.
You could say you automate the poka-yoke is about making things idiot-proof, but so you could
that's one
say,
way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how it is. You could say. It's making sure that it's automating the sensing.
Yeah, it's like the analogy I've heard about that is with seatbelts. Like one way to do it is, you get a fine if you're not wearing your seatbelt when you're driving.
Yeah.
Another way is you get into a little light come on, and another way is like a sound goes off when your seatbelt's not on.
Yeah.
So the sound way is the way to do it, because then there's less thinking about it. People hear the sound, they put their seatbelt on.
Cars are good examples of that helps us. Cars are very self-sustained in many ways. It actually protects itself. If there's no oil, it will stop and so on. And
you don't need to check the oil anymore. You just
drive
right or something. Yeah.
So cars are good examples of actually sensing a lot of parameters and adjusting to the and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
And that's how. What if our factories would actually work like our car, that it would say to us when there's something wrong?
Yeah. Where do you think factories are at now on average there in the journey?
I think in terms of digitalization of factories, it's not like digitized or not digitized.
Yeah.
So you will see digitalization will happen in certain areas, and it will of course spread. So if you look at large scale manufacturing, something like material handling, it's super automated in many companies.
Robots picking stuff up.
Robots or warehouses, lights out. People say, "Oh, this lights out. That's never going to happen." It is every day in automatic warehouses. You have cranes, and this is like 30-year-old technology. You have cranes bringing the goods in and out. You have automated guided vehicles. So I think you have also again processing of let's say order information. So you have MES systems and stuff like that. So I think it's moving. Is it moving fast enough? Not. I don't think so. I think we will see countries where they have, for instance, in China, where they have a lot of engineers, a lot of they have a passion for technology. They can leapfrog because maybe they are buying their line for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like banking in Africa. It was way ahead of banking in Denmark, right?
Straight to mobile phones.
They switched to mobile phones right away.
Yeah.
So I think what can actually be bad is that we're sort of stuck with the things we have. But then again, if you really want to do it, you can call Factbird, or you can start developing systems. It's. I'm not saying it's bad to have old machines, because it's not. It's really good to have those machines, but it's bad not to have the ambition for how could your machines and the rest of your business be digitized.
Yeah.
And so it all comes down to, I think, management and the understanding of what if we could automate the sensing of our business parameters, manufacturing, logistics, HR. What if we could do that? How would that offload our brain? How would that change how would that prevent the loss of experience?
Yep.
So it's about having this ambition to understand what will happen in the future, and then try to do your best to at least start.
Yep.
To say, okay, was it a good day yesterday? What are the parameters, and how do we sense and how could we even sense it automatic? Of course, you should maybe start by sensing it manually, right?
Yeah, of course.
But the ambition should be that just like my brain is the sensing of my foot is on autopilot in my brain.
Yeah.
I would love in my company for the sensing of how is it going with the payments and stuff like that. That would be totally automated, and we would not spend a single minute on it.
Yeah.
I lived in Turkey. It's a fantastic country. I really love it, and but every day we had to be aware if we had water, because we could not drink the tap water where we lived. So we had the large bottles of water, but we needed to, just like milk, we had to be sure that we had water all the time.
It's just another thing you have to think about.
It was a thing we had to think about. So in Denmark, we have this luxury that we don't think about if we have water. It's a service, right? It just comes.
There's lots of things you don't have to think about.
Yeah,
you don't.
Really because we managed to, because we are lucky to live here. Yeah. We managed to automate that. And so a Dane doesn't have to spend time bringing water to his house.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, Turkey maybe also. Of course, they will also solve the water issues there.
Yeah.
But it's just an example of how when we automate, we can liberate capacity in our brain, in our companies to develop further.
Yeah. It's like washing
but of course,
machines.
if Danes are just sitting on their ass watching manufacturing matters, no, I'm kidding.
Tour de France.
I think we need to do something with that time, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, it's a productivity thing. I remember reading a lot of some stuff about washing machines in Africa, like how when people start getting washing machines in their households, it's just such a big leap in what you can achieve, because you save so many hours in the day just with a washing machine. So that's another good sort of analogy for that type of progress.
Exactly. Exactly. And the analogy is you should just think how can you scale this?
Yes.
How wide can you scale this into your company? Can you actually develop an immune system for a company?
Mm-hmm. So it's automatically fighting off any problems that come along.
Yeah, at least raising the temperature so that you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that 50% humidity thing in packaging is really fascinating. I didn't know that. I know, of course, check humidity in the mixing area and all that. But
if you have a very experienced packaging guy and you have issues with the leaflets, the first thing they ask is for the humidity. The second thing is they take the paper and they see if it's folded in the right direction, because papers are actually produced.
Yeah.
So it's super difficult to fold in one, but not in the other.
So it's got
direction.
a grain.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that little nugget of information, that's a great place to end the podcast today.
Okay. Good.
Thank you so much for your time, Finn.
You're welcome. Sorry if it was a little bit nerdy, but
it wasn't too academic.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, it was good.
I think about this all the time. It can keep me awake at night.
And that's why you've
started
businesses.
It's going to change the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time as well. And thank you, Gabriel. Cheers.